I'm Dorothy Karl Hollis, and I was brought up in Gloversville, New York, and I had two brothers. And I went to high school, Gloversville High School, and I graduated when I was 16 years old. So there was no chance of getting a job with anybody, so my mother insisted I go back to school for another year. So I did, and then I went to the business school in Gloversville and got an honor degree in business. Well, I went for a job, and being only 17 then, there was nothing I could do. I'd be taking a place of somebody that was 50 or 60 years old leaving. So I decided I was going in training. So my girlfriend was in St. Peter's Hospital in Albany, and she would be a year ahead of me. So I thought, well, I have a friend down there anyway. When I got down there, I loved it, and she didn't. And she didn't get near me because she was in another year class ahead of me. Well, I graduated in 1935 from St. Peter's Hospital, and I worked in Gloversville doing private duty. My brother was a doctor on Grand Street. My brother was a doctor on Grand Street in Gloversville, and at night they used to have different doctors meet in his apartment and talk, and one of them was a nurse, a public health nurse. And I heard all about public health. Well, I thought that would be better for me to do than the private duty, because I love to move around, and in private duty you can't. You have one patient to take care of. So it was decided that I'd go away to Syracuse University. So I went for a year and a half, and then at that time the girls were all entering Army, and I thought I'd love to join the Army. I forgot where I was. Well, the doctors all were talking back and forth, and public health was very important in those days, and I would probably be moving around in people's houses rather than to sit with one patient. So I put my name in and went to Syracuse University for a year and a half. And then after the war was on, and everybody that was rooming in the houses up there were going in service. So I came back to Gloversville, but I still was doing public health. And I asked my supervisor if I could be released, and she said no, I couldn't. And another girl was with me, she couldn't be released. So I waited a week or so, and I thought, gee, the war is on, why can't I go? So I went out to Johnstown to the district health officer, and I asked Dr. Quinlivan if I could go. He said, well, we can't keep anybody with a war on. You can go anytime you want to. So I put my name in, and they sent me to Albany to be examined. And so after that, I got another reply from the Army that I would report at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. I think it was the 25th of March, 1945. So I went by train to Massachusetts, and they put me in Lovell North, the big hospital. There was a Lovell South too, but I was only in North. And I had charge of one unit, which was 25 patients. And my duty there at that time was to get their breakfast. Food was brought in, but I had to make the toast and do other things. And then the Dr. Cornelio from Connecticut was our little health officer there, and he said, we'll do the dressings at such a time in the morning. So we had we had 9 patients on one side and 8 on the other, making 17 patients in each hall. Well, we got the patients were very good to take care of. Most of them could get up and walk around with injuries that would help them even when they were walking. But there were also a few that weren't, and they loved to gamble. And some of those men would get their pay, and they'd see it. You know, there was a sharpie in the group that would take the money, and we used to beg them not to go and play, but they'd go and lose their money, and they'd be out for another month. And from time to time, they'd go out sometimes behind the I can't think of the word, the room, and in the back would be a house, or a lot of houses there with the fence, and they'd go buy liquor under the what do you call it, the fence, come back in and be sick in bed all day, or didn't want to get up and do anything. So sometimes when I wasn't that busy, they took me off that floor and put me on another floor to take care of somebody that was really very bad. So I was supposed to stay the day with that person. For instance, one of the lieutenants went in the latrine, and instead of flushing the toilet, she kicked it, and the hot water broke the pipe. The pipe broke, and she was scalded. Well, I had her to take care of off my ward. And another time they'd wake us up at night, 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They had the Germans on the floor. I don't know whether they poisoned them or what they did, but it was food poisoning of some sort. We'd have to take care of them, and they were really, really sick. They get better, but they were really sick. And then there was, we relieved other nurses like that, but it wasn't too exciting, but it was lovely. I enjoyed it. They had a nice PX where you could go in and meet the other soldiers. And then I met one of the soldiers there that we got married. And we were married in the Army, and I had my uniform on, and when I looked around, there was supposed to be nobody in there but the priest and my husband and I. We looked around, the whole room was filled with my patients to come to the wedding. So then we all went in the PX and had coffee and like that. Well, when I got out of the Army, I came home. I got married in the Army, then I came home, and I worked at private duty for a year on and off in Fonda and Fultonville and all over the county. And then I went back to Syracuse and got my last year and a half on a GI Bill, which was wonderful. So now I could have a better job, but as it was, there was 2, 3 girls that were with me that were, and I didn't get the promotion, but it didn't matter, one single mother. So then I had 2 children born, and I belong to the Catholic War Vets. In fact, I'm the only Catholic woman war vet in Fulton County. And I couldn't go to the meetings as much as I would want to because the kids were little and had to be. But later on, I decided that I would just do private duty where I could get off and be home, where this other was traveling a lot. So that's about all I can tell you. And I've had a very good, I was married 39 years to my husband before he died. And I've had and my 2 children. My daughter has been 31 years in the X-ray department at Lovell High School. And my other daughter works for the governor. That's all I can tell you.
Would you like to share some of your your pictures?
Yeah. This is a picture here taken of at Lovell General Hospital. They had the Pepsi arena. My husband and I are here in the front. You see it? It's on I see. Coca-Cola concert. And this is a picture of me in my regular uniform in Lovell General Hospital in Massachusetts. You'd want to hear about these. Picture of my mother out in Idaho. She put my brother the doctor's uniform on. The heat was so warm she couldn't get out of it fast enough. This is a picture of me in uniform, our regular uniform. And this is a picture of my youngest brother, Charles Karl. He's he's in Japan. And this is a picture of Dr. Karl with one of his friends, and he was in New Caledonia. This is a picture of my husband and I, our wedding picture. And this is a picture of me. I was 30 years old in my dress uniform. And this is at Fort Devens, the Coca-Cola concert. All these boys were there, and my husband is here with his foot wrapped up where he got hurt in service, and I'm next to him. And this was taken for the veterans in Gloversville, Caring Hands it's called. I'm over here. There's a picture of my husband and I when we were married. And this is another picture of my wedding. That's all I got.
Now, when you were at the Army hospital, what was it like caring for the German prisoners?
We didn't have too many Germans. They were the workers around the hospital. They'd mow the lawns and do that. That's what their duty was. Occasionally we had a few Negro girls that came up from the south, and they'd send me over in the morning to look at their feet for the, I can't think of the word. What happens to your feet?
Athlete's foot?
Yes, for anything like that. I never found any, but I did have to go, and I went about once a week over to check them over to see. And there were one or two of those Negro girls were lovely to work with. They had nice, but the other ones there were others that weren't.
What was your most memorable time in service?
Well, I think the most memorable was the time they gave whatever happened to the German prisoners, that we had them in the middle of the night on the floor. There must have been 40 of them. And we were told they had ate something, you know, and that's all. And they were really, no matter who it was a human being you were feeling sorry for, because they really suffered a lot for that night and other nights.
Now, how did you happen to meet your husband in
Oh, he was one of the
hospital?
patients. He came off the boat from England, and he came in the middle of the night. And we were at Fort Devens, which is only 40 miles from Boston. So they brought him in at night in the, what do you call it, and the only place I could put him was in the sunroom that had an extra bed. So the next morning I stuck a thermometer in his mouth, and he said to me, "Lieutenant, can I take that bed down by the latrine?" He said, "It's going to be empty, the fellow's leaving." And I said, "Yes, after the fellow leaves, you go down there." So after that, he was only about 10 feet from my office. He was there quite a lot. But we had he was a very nice person. And we had one fellow in the ward that was from Gloversville, but I didn't know that. But he was a strange fellow that couldn't get along with anybody. So he come up to me one day and said, "I'm getting out of here." And I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Utica." So I knew there was a hospital in Utica. So I thought, well, he's going to the Mohawk Valley. So I said, whereabouts in Mohawk Valley? So a place you never heard of. I said, "Where?" He said, "Gloversville." And my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, went right off the carriage. He was sitting on one of the carriages. He fell right off the carriage. And so I saw that boy later on in Gloversville when it was a year ago. He didn't remember me at all.
Now, where was your husband originally from?
From Boston. He was in Boston. And being down in that area, a lot of my Irish my family is down there. So I love being near Boston, and it's only 40 miles to go to Boston. We could get on the train and go in a very short time.
What types of injuries did you see when you were caring for them?
We saw 3 or 4 fellows were shot in the foot. Some of them had been shot in the shoulder, arm. Some of them had head injuries. But most of them were leg injuries, I would say. That Dr. Cornelio was our ward officer, and he was a small person, but he was really a grand man. So when we got married, he stood up with us.
Now, you said your brother was a doctor.
Yes.
In New Caledonia.
Yes.
What types of...
He was a major in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a picture of him in there someplace. And yeah, well, this is him too, with somebody else, but right there. This was him.
Now, did you hear from him often?
No, not too often. He had his own family, and my brother Charles had quite a few children. And when he got through, he had 8, and the doctor had 5, and he has a doctor out in Colorado now. Mm-hmm. He's dead. So he died at 48 of hepatitis.
What was your cut for a man?
Well, I'm trying to think of.
What do you think is the most important experience that you did receive?
Well, what I feel like, if I had stayed home, my mother I would have been home person, because my mother wanted me there. But by getting out and being with other people and young people, and my brothers would say to my mother, you know, let her stay home, don't let her do this, or don't let... They weren't mean, but they always saw something that they didn't want me to get into. So anyway, it was that, being out with other people and on my own was very important because I was 30 years old.
Thank you very much. Your story is very interesting.
No, I don't think it's interesting at all. But